I want to ask Jacinta to come back, but also for Helen Missen, one of our board members, to join her. They're going to talk about the Mind the Gap program. Is she using PowerPoint?
She's going against the grain again, which is what Jacinta does. So she wants PowerPoint again. Sorry, everybody that wasn't allowed it. I did say to her, can't we just natter? And she was like, nah. But just before we start, the thing about Jacinta is, and you might have gathered this already, is that she is not frightened to do something differently to how it's been done before. Move this way. I'm standing in the way. So what she's going to talk about now, basically she went to parents and carers before clinicians. So she turned research on its head in some ways. And I think you'll find it quite interesting, hopefully, once she gets her thing. Should I dance now?
Sorry,
yes.
Yay, you're there. Sorry, it's just my comfort blanket, I can work with that. Although I think I'm rapidly developing the skills of stand-up comics, so maybe I'll get there at the end. So what we're here to talk about something completely different, and I have to talk about Mind the Gap because that's what paid for Helen to come. But there is a relevance to talking about it too, and you will see that in a minute. And the reason that I want to talk about it with slides is I have some slides that'll say everything, really. This is the research project that I did, and I started it about 3 years ago. And it was supposed to look at the gap, and I know this will resonate with a lot of people, in primary care, which is, the care, your family doctor and people like that, and secondary care, which in the UK is general mental health and specialist eating disorder care interface. So what I envisaged was a gap like that, because I knew that people spend a long time trying to even get referred to eating disorder services. Does this kind of sound familiar to a lot of people? Okay, that's not what I found. This is what I found, okay? Crazy paving. There are gaps everywhere. There's not a single gap. It's not a nice laminar gap between two completely separate systems. We found silos everywhere, gaps everywhere. The poor patient and family have to make the jump between gaps, from this team to the next team, from one side to another, from this kind of service to that kind of service. So that's what we found. And then to my astonishment, the Welsh government asked me to review the entire eating disorder system in Wales for all ages. It was like, yes, okay. So I came from this research, and so what I did is, the first thing I did was for what I call design workshops, not consultations. The poor Welsh public had been consulted to death. This was the third consultation in 5 years. Nothing had happened after the first 2 consultations. So I thought, no, we need a design workshop. Why is that different? And they were held across Wales. And because we sat people down, I was the only healthcare professional in the room. Sorry, I have to be there, I'm leading the thing. And I said to people, please design for me your ideal eating disorder service for Wales. And then the lay representatives all stepped forward. They facilitated the groups. I just stepped back. Do you want to talk about it?
So on the days that we had these design workshops, we had just lay people, so parents like us and our people who are suffering, and family members as well. Anybody who in that sort of cyclical thing from the person who's had the eating disorder, including the family as well. And we just we all just brainstormed what we wanted out of a service. And basically what we did was put it into paper. They'd given us sort of drawings and things. I was helping to facilitate it for 3 of the sessions. And the basics to it was that we had a group of dads, then we had mums, then we had people who were service users who had actually suffered with an eating disorder. And funnily enough, all the same things coming out in every single design workshop. It wasn't led by Jacinta. She didn't give any ideas, but all parents, similarly across the world, are wanting the same thing for their families. And the Welsh eating disorder review, which Jacinta's running for us, has now presented to the Welsh Government what the people have come up with. Jacinta has always been alongside carers and parents and been a champion for us as well as for the children and families, people that we love. And these were the things that came out. So I'll give you back to Jacinta to finish off.
Basically, what we've got in Wales at the moment is the absolute reverse of what these 5 principles are. And what everyone said, we're a small country, we're big geographically, relatively speaking, not compared to the US, but, it takes about 4 or 5 hours to get one side to the other, but it's only 3.3 million people. And everybody said, cut the crap, make a really, really good national team. Don't worry about whether it's close to us, we'll deal with it. They said, you've got to do early detection, no such thing as you meet our criteria. What's your BMI? Have you dropped it enough? Stay, not wait. I heard that for the first time in the workshops. It was fantastic. Why do you want people to get worse or to meet our criteria before they get any help? Let's turn them around, get out there, learn to work with people in the high-risk areas so that we even detect them before they even know they have an eating disorder. Inclusivity. If you ask for help, we'll respond. It may not be us who are the best to give you help, but we'll answer and we'll sort of try to signpost you. Person-centered. It's all about the person in the center. It's not about the diagnosis. Welsh eating disorder services are almost entirely built around anorexia nervosa. Hey, what about binge eating disorder? Hey, what about people who haven't lost weight? We need to learn to reach out and work with weight management services, with diabetes services, with autism services. It's all about relationships. If you've heard me in a conference, I keep hammering on about trust in relationships. It is about expert people. Oh, that's the other thing. Again, in Wales, I call it the any idiot can deal with someone who's got mild eating disorder philosophy. And I think it's absolutely the reverse, that when they're very subtle, it actually takes quite a lot of expertise to engage people who aren't necessarily in such a hole that they need, they think, oh yeah, I need help. But actually, those are the people we know from evidence we can turn around. So I love that question about 3 years, because actually we should catch them at 0 years. We should turn them around, save a whole lot of suffering. By the way, it'll save us a lot of money as well. And recovery focus. It's not about where you get with your BMI, it's whether you're getting on with your life, And that's where we are now. And I can stop talking if you want.
I don't want you to stop talking, but I do want to give people a chance to ask a question. So, do we have any questions?
I'm going to stop talking because that's a slightly grim slide. I don't want to end with it. Anyway.
Thank you. That was really great. What I'm wondering about in terms of early detection is what if pediatricians are trained in this? Because yes, I agree with that. But my daughter was adopted from China, and at 22 months, and I think that she may have been malnourished, and I think things may have been triggered already, and she wasn't diagnosed until she was 8. So. Wouldn't it be a good idea to train pediatricians to look out for the signs earlier?
I do feel very strongly it's really important that we train family physicians, that we train pediatricians, that we train school nurses, that actually everybody learns how to pick up eating disorders. And really, people do need educating, because when I visited a couple of weight management services in Wales, they said, we see lots of people with trauma. We know all about trauma. So I said, what about binge eating disorder? Nah, we don't see that. And I thought, okay, So you don't see it if you're not looking for it, if you don't know what you're looking for. So we need to educate people. And for the high-risk areas, like, say, adoption services and all that, they may need particular training. They may need to have the ability to pick up the phone and talk to people, hey, I've got this person, I'm really not sure. And we should not be saying, go away, they don't meet criteria. We should be accepting people early. But Helen wants to talk to you about a very inspirational team.
I apparently want to talk to you about it. No, in North Wales, yeah, I do. In North Wales, there's, so I put in a petition, and this is something for you parents. It's taken 9-10 years for me to get to a place where I'm valued in a room, so I sit on lots of boards and committees in Wales, and all the clinicians, I'm the only parent carer, actually there's a new one, just started this last year, and it's really important that you carry on be the dripping tap and the squeaking hinge. It's what Laura's done, it's what a lot of us do, and you get listened. So I put a petition in. Out of that has come, there's a disparity in adult services and children's services. So children's services don't get any money at the moment, specifically for eating disorders, and adult services do. Out of that petition where I was calling it out, £250,000 were released for patient service down in South Wales. Now in North Wales, one of the eating disorder psychiatrists up there started what is called a speed team. Now if you know the NHS, they do not allow you to start things that they don't want you to do, but he forged ahead. So what he started is something called the speed team. He has a multidisciplinary team around him. He's a psychiatrist, he has psychologist, dietitian, family therapy, and a pediatrician who had an interest in the field and kept having patients coming through her paediatric ward with eating disorders. She realised she didn't know what she was talking about, so she educated herself and got alongside the psychiatrist. They run the most phenomenal team, which unfortunately I had to access with my youngest son last year. So we have a 10-year stint where with a child, my daughter, who's nearly 25, who has had anorexia now for nearly 10 years, is still in the system, didn't get early intervention because that just wasn't available. I found F.E.A.S.T, started what needing doing, but the wiring had started then. My youngest son got ill. It was around Chicago time I was starting to go, I'm really panicking now. Last year, got him to see this team. They said, you don't want an eating disorder, you know you don't. And he's out of it. He's weight restored, he's back up, and it was early intervention, partly because I knew what I was doing, but also the psychiatrist and that team around him were brilliant. So
Beautiful.
Is that okay?
So yes, and of course, they'll be here. You can ask them other questions.
We're leaving. Sorry, we're going to the
Yes.
airport.
Oh, sorry. I have their emails.